If you decide to take the step, if you decide to deal with the ups and downs that come with it, just be very kind to yourself. Love yourself, like yourself, not as, hey, look at me, I'm the bee's knees, but whatever you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, it has to start with just liking yourself, liking with who you are. Because even when you are super successful, you still have to live with yourself, like you're living with yourself, right? So be kind to yourself, love yourself, like yourself, and just don't not do things that you always wanted to do just because you have not been able to do them so far.
Hello and welcome to the Unlock Lab. I'm your host, Tosca DiMatteo, and I can't wait for you to hear this conversation I had with my dear friend, Vishwas. I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation because he went from a career in marketing, a career in engineering, and transitioned to be an actor. And that was no small feat. So I'm excited for you to hear his story and his life lessons about making those transitions. And we just covered so much ground. So if you or somebody that you know is still wondering about their dream and is it okay to dream it and is it okay to go after it, this is the episode for you. But before we dive in and I introduce Vishwas, for those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome. I'm Tosca DiMatteo, and I'm the CEO and founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting. And the work that I do is in the arena of career transformations. So I do keynote talks, I do one-on-one coaching, and everything in between in the pursuit of helping you get to where you want to be. So if you want to learn more, visit coachtosca.com. That's Coach TOSCA.com. All right. So Vishwas, thank you so much for being here and doing this. And it's funny because years ago, I remember you were at my house and I interviewed you and I was going to use that in whatever platform I was doing at the time. I think it was maybe the first one. I was like, I'm going to do this thing. And then we never ended up using it. But I think this is way better because now I have a podcast and it'll be even better. But, first of all, you are just one of my dear friends. I'm so inspired by you. And I just love the deep conversations that we have. And I really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation and touch the lives of so many. And I know I'm not going to do any kind of introduction justice. I always just like to hand it over to the guest because I would love for you to just share a bit about yourself, like your journey and what you want the audience to know about you before we dive in and talk about your dramatic career shift and how you got to where you are today.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me on your podcast, Tosca. We've been friends for a very long time. And yes, you're right. We have a lot of good, fun, deep conversations. And I'm glad that, we're able to hopefully put something together that people will hear and say, oh, that makes sense. About myself, I was born and raised in India on June 21, 1976. My parents are retired. They were both teachers. My dad taught English in a college in India, and my mom taught art and then music. So a little bit of art and appreciation for the arts was always there in my blood. Literature through my dad and music and other stuff through my mom. I'm the older child. I have a younger brother who's 7 years younger than me. But I guess my mom was the one who wanted me to get into the performing arts even when I was a kid. Because she herself, she studied classical Indian dance. She wanted to be a dancer. If she had her way, if she had her choice, she would have wanted to be a professional classical dancer. But that was not meant to be for whatever reasons. But she did want me to get into the performing arts. So my parents, from a very early age, put me on stage. In India, we used to have these things called poetry recitations where you stand up there and you recite a poem. And my dad is a poet himself. He writes in our native language, which is Punjabi. So I would go up there, prepared with a brilliant piece written by my father, brilliantly performed by me. And then I would win awards left, right, and center. So I had that from a very early age, and it was only a matter of time that would sort of transition into actually love for performing, for being on stage, which eventually got into being in front of the camera. So I've always enjoyed performing in front of people. I've always I got used to the high that you get from it, and the happiness that you get from it. Not that that's the only source of happiness, but the fulfillment that you get from it at a very early age. And when I was in kind of high schoolish is when I decided that I wanted to be an actor. And that's not always, the easiest thing to hear from middle class parents. Also, like, I was academically decent, like, so they didn't want me to throw away what would have been, more of a certain life of comfort and stability to pursue something that would be, so unstable or sort of unpredictable, rather. But they never said no to me. They never said, no, this is not something you would do. So they kind of said that, hey, why don't you get, a degree that you can use if the acting thing doesn't work out? So I ended up pursuing a degree in engineering. So I did that. And while I was there, I did, like, 4 years of engineering, but we had our own little theater group, own little drama group, and we used to put up plays and perform at, like, inter-college festivals and win awards and stuff like that. So my love for the performing arts actually grew stronger. And then when I graduated from school, I took a year off and did just theater in my native tongue for a year. And then I also ended up getting cast in a TV show that was supposed to be like a big TV show at that point, and we even shot for it for like 5-6 months. But then there was some disagreement between the producers and the channel that was supposed to air it, and production was halted, and I was left with nothing. A year after coming out of engineering school, and after getting so close to getting an opportunity, I was left with nothing. In the meantime, I had only applied for one job, to be honest with you. Any normal, usual person's dream job, that's the only one that I applied to. And around the time when that thing came to a halt, I got an offer to join this company. So I took that offer because that would at least take me out of my parents' house and give me independence. And also I was very happy to see the relief on my parents' face that, okay, he has a career that, at least the stable side of things. And then once I took that job, it just kind of took me away. Once you have a full-time job, working for a company, working for the man, then there's very little time to, you can't act. They send you where they send you. And it's a kind of job that's like all over the country. So I was posted in different parts of India. I was also in Mumbai for 3.5 years, and tried to find an inroads into the Mumbai film industry while having a full-time job. And now the industry is a lot more streamlined from what I hear, that it's more democratic. There are open auditions, and people who are really good can show up and audition and get parts. But back then it was all about who you knew. And, and I'm not that kind of guy, so I was kind of disillusioned by that, by all of that. And so disillusioned that I just wanted to get out of the whole system. I just wanted to get out of the country and have like a fresh start somewhere else. And that's where came the whole opportunity, the option to move to the US for my master's. Like, this was not a lifelong dream of mine. I know friends and people in the family or extended friends whose kids, their dream was to go get to the US as a student and get your master's there. For me, it was shit, I need to get out of here. What can I do? So
And was that because you were just like miserable in that corporate job?
miserable in the corporate job, and just did not see if you like this big dream that I had came to an abrupt end, and all I saw was, working in this company for the rest of my life. I just wanted a clean slate. I just wanted to go far away and have like a clean, like a fresh start to life, even though it sounds very dramatic, but that was the mindset that I was in. So for me, like, getting an MBA in the US was like an escape plan, so I could just be somewhere where nobody knew me and just start from scratch. So I, like, for 4 or 5 months, like, put my head down, worked on, cracking the GMAT, and cracked the GMAT, got a phenomenally good score, and ended up like, and I did get good experience at the company that I was working with. I mean, I made sure that I was, even though my dad told me early on, like, whatever situation you are in, don't ever let anyone, fault you for not doing a good job at whatever you are doing. Wherever you are, you should be useful. So I was like, I did really well at my job, got good experience. So that plus my GMAT score and, the whole story that you write to get into business schools was a compelling enough story that I ended up getting a scholarship to the University of Maryland for College Park for MBA. Came here in 2004 and started from scratch. But then again, acting was obviously not, and in my mind at that point, I had moved on from acting because it was so far removed from where I was. So yeah, MBA, and then after that, got into Pepsi, where I met you, met my wife, Josie, who you know at business school, and then did about 10, 12 years of corporate America, and then got a chance to make the shift to acting about 8, 9 years ago, and have been doing that full time since then.
Thank you. I love the nuance of what you shared and, all those little slash big steps, right? Because it just shows you had this deep passion. It shows that you made some sacrifice, you took the consequences, you started all over in a number of times in a number of different ways. And each of those transitions could be a whole exploration. As you know, the reason why I was really excited to dive in around your career was especially around that period where you were in marketing in a company that so many people like would dream to work at.
Yeah.
And then eventually you decided I'm going to go and pursue this acting dream that I've actually had for a really long time. So, which is really hard, I think. And I think it's hard to find examples. I think maybe more now in this day and age that we're living in with like the pandemic and everybody kind of the crack in the veneer, like, what do I really want? Life is too short. But like, I think still people are still kind of in the game and maybe not, right, not honoring the dream. So I guess my first question is like, when did you know that you just were really done with your career track in marketing? Like,
I think it's interesting that you brought that up in terms of like the different transitions. Like if I look at my sort of, from a career standpoint, if I look at my life, it's been a series of transitions. It's been a series of sort of, self-chosen, thoughtful restarts, right? So even the company in India that I was working for, that I decided to chuck, and I was 28, I wasn't within the Indian system, that's like, dude, you're 28 and you're not married. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, that is like, that's a lifetime. You're supposed to have moved on to the next phase of your life, which is get married and have kids, and because you've got this stable job. So even that company that I left was like a dream job for like a ton of people, like everyone. And I was like, no, this is not working for me. I got to get out of here, right? And then when I came to the US, I was able to get an internship, and then I worked at Pepsi. I had a great time there, learned so much. What I'm trying to go with that is like, even when I was away from acting, even the work that I was doing until then, I tried to find the best possible thing that would keep me interested and engaged, right? I was not going to do something just because this is the option that I have, right? So when I came to the US, I knew that I wanted to get into the CPG industry because it's exciting, it is fun, it suits my personality, and it's challenging, and it's a mix of business and analysis and meeting people and all that kind of stuff, and so, fortunately, I was able to get into Pepsi. And then when I worked there in business development for 2-3 years, I was like, I really want to get into brand management, right? And I was doing well at Pepsi. And over there, I was on a decent career path. But I was like, this is not what I see myself doing. Acting was not even on the horizon anywhere. If I was like, if this is what's going to be my future, that I have a corporate job, then I got to find what's the most exciting and what's most compelling for me. And I thought that would be brand management. So when I shifted from Pepsi to Post Foods, I took a 2-level step down. Like even after having been out of business school and being at a certain level at Pepsi, when I moved to Post, I started where someone right out of business school would have started. But I took that risk because that meant I could work in actual brand management, which I thought was more fun and engaging. And it is, and I enjoyed it and I loved it. But that's another risk. Like people don't just leave Pepsi. People just don't leave a company like that. People just don't leave a certain career path that they're on, which is promising a higher title, more money, and all that kind of stuff, and be like, no, I'm just gonna start from scratch and pursue this one because I think I love this one more. So that was another transition when I went from, but then because I was good at what I did and because my experience at Pepsi was worth a lot, when I was at Post, I moved pretty quickly after that. But, that was, again, a risk that I took because the option was to do something that I would not have been able to do, or to do something that other people thought that I should do and I'd be good at, but I did not feel that I would really enjoy it. So that was another transition. So even when I was away from my dream of acting and doing what I love to do, even within that plan B setup, I've always tried to find what would be the most interesting and engaging and fulfilling. So to go back to your question, honestly, I never felt like I was done with marketing because I enjoyed the brand management. I enjoyed marketing, especially the higher you get, it's more of a general management approach where you're not just looking at one thing, you're basically looking at the whole business, and from A to B, you're responsible for the whole P&L and you're managing people. And like, I loved that part, I was good at it. And but deep down, even on my best days or my bestest things, I would always be like, man, I always wanted to be an actor. Or man, I love acting. And my wife, who, at that point we'd been together for 10, 15 years, was like, I've been hearing you say this for a long time. So when are you going to make the switch? So the switch happened because the company that I used to work for got bought by another company, and a whole bunch of us, got packages. And I got a pretty decent package. And I was like ready to go hop on getting another job. And I had friends who were trying to line up interviews for me and stuff like that. But at that point, my wife said, if you do not make the switch right now, then you will never do it. So basically it was her who told me. And it came to a point where I realized that at that point in life, the only person standing between me and trying to give what I love to do a decent shot is myself. And will I be able to live with that or not? So with her support and a little bit of introspection is when I decided to, make the switch. Because otherwise, I was enjoying marketing. I was enjoying working at Post. The culture was great. The people were amazing. So I would have been like, hey, let's take this package, put it in the bank. Let's go get another job.
I want to pause a little bit with that because you're just dropping just really beautiful insights that for the listener, I want you to like lean in here, stop crunching on your popcorn because I know that you are. Because first of all, right, you're just like honoring, like you had this whisper, it never went away. The dream never really died, right? Like it was always something that was there. That's one thing, right? Because I'm always talking about we have to listen to our whispers. The thing that's not going away is not going away for a reason. And a lot of people can live their whole life and ignore the whispers. So, for you listening, my question is what are the whispers that you may have been ignoring for a long time? The second thing is just really honoring Josie, your wife, for just being such a support, right? And saying, like, what the heck? I don't want to hear about this anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But right, to have those kind of people in your life.
Absolutely.
And I say to people, if you don't have those kind of people in your life, then you might need to do some pruning, or you might need to like reconsider who you're letting into your life, because we all deserve that kind of support.
Absolutely.
And it's really important, I think, when we do want to take those big leaps, that we have people around us that are rooting us on. So there's that. And I think the other thing I wanted to highlight in what you were sharing, right, is that it's not, in this world of coaching and in this world of like, living your best life and all that stuff, it's not necessarily about, gosh, my life is so miserable and what do I do to get out of it? It can also be, I'm doing pretty great. Things are pretty good. And what else is possible?
Yeah.
And am I dreaming my biggest dream? And I think that a lot of people don't necessarily think, well, am I settling? Am I actually considering that there's more available to me? And I feel like your story is such a great story in that regard, right? Because it's not like you were like down in the dumps. You were like, no, I kind of like this. And then the universe offered you a layoff package. And by the way, I'm always saying to people, like, life is happening for you and not to you, right? And like, it's hard to see the gifts in the moment sometimes. I think you saw the gift right away, actually, if I recall correctly. But I think that if we have this lens in our life experience to say, this is happening, if this is happening for me and not to me, then what is it that I'm here to learn about this moment? And so I just wanted to take that opportunity to tease that out too, because especially right now, like, I mean, oh my gosh, every other day in the news is like massive companies having massive layoffs, and like, and then that's also a great opportunity to like reevaluate, like, where am I going? What do I want? So then walk me through. So Josie was like, do the thing now or you're never going to do it. And was that the permission slip that you needed, or was it more of a process for you to like really start stepping into the acting arena?
No, once we had that conversation, and once I realized that it's actually possible, and I want to point out, like, my wife has a really good job, which allows me to, in terms of the practical, how do you survive side of things. So once that was clear, and it was, I was like, all right, let's, I didn't dwell too much upon it, because I had started doing, because we used to live in New Jersey at that point, right outside of New York. So I had started doing more and more sort of diving back into acting. I did a acting lab there. I started taking classes in the city. I, started getting an audition along with a full-time job. So for a while, I was like burning the proverbial candle at both ends. And I think maybe I was at a point anyways to see, like, is this the point where I make a switch, or in a way that the company getting bought out and the package thing sort of expedited that. But even that, I wasn't like, all right, let's do this. Like, I had to have a few conversations with myself and obviously with Josie, but it didn't take that long. I think I was headed towards that way anyways. So once we decided that, okay, this is what we're gonna do, that's what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And so, and I love that you share that, right? Because I'm always talking about like, look, the way that we all have different privileges, right? And how we get to do things or not do things can be privilege can be a big part of it. And also, I think there's times where we have the privilege and we choose not to honor that, right? Like actually you do have the ability because we hold ourselves back, our limiting beliefs or our inner critics saying like, how dare you not contribute to the household income because, all the things. I think we have very interesting parallel experiences in a lot of ways, which we've talked about. But what were the reactions of people around you? And I'm asking this not because I think we need to give credence to it, because sometimes that's the wind that and the resistance that we're pushing against too. Like where's your community? Like, go on, Vishwas, do it. Or were they like, are you crazy? Like, did you have any like experience any headwinds?
I did not, so the only people whose headwinds or whose concerns that I would even worry about would be my parents, right? Like, they're the only people that I would be like, hey, don't worry, I'm fine. But they were like, they're in India, they're, well, physically and otherwise like far removed. Like, my dad had a few questions about, hey, so how long are you going to do this for? So I remember giving him like sort of like a calculation. Hey, my package is gonna, if I continue doing this, then and if I keep my yearly income the same, then my package is going to last me in X number of years. So I'll do it like for X number of years, and then we'll see what happens. So, but those X number of years passed like a long time ago. So that's the only conversation I remember. And even that was just like, he's just, at this point, and we're married, we had, two kids. So like, there is hey, these guys know what they're doing. They're not just going to be irresponsible. Well, they at least had faith that even if I would be, my wife would not be irresponsible. So these guys are like, thinking about this, so they must have thought this through. So there was not a lot of pushback, or there was more of a conversation around just to see that have we thought this through or not. And as far as friends are concerned, everyone was excited, and because they're so different from what I was trying to do, as opposed to my other colleagues at that time who were looking for other jobs and stuff. Like this was so way out there that people were mostly excited and supportive. And it's also not something that I like, shouted from the rooftop, I'm gonna do this. It was more of if it came up, because I learned that from my own experience. Because when I was younger, when I was like 19, 20, when I dreamed of becoming this mega movie star, that's all I would do. Like, at any given opportunity, I would tell people, I wore it like a badge of honor, I'm going to be a movie star someday. And then when that sort of crumbled, I was left with nothing. I was like, oh shoot, I've told so many people I'm going to be a movie star, they're going to be like, dude, what happened to you? So I tried to keep it like even more on the down low. So yeah, I'm just gonna do my thing, put my head down. I'm just gonna do my thing. The approach was different. It was more about pursuing this and trying to get to do this, as opposed to, I'm gonna be a big movie star someday. The approach was more towards the work that would be needed to get there, as opposed to, this is where I will be. So I think, having learned from that, I kind of, I didn't always, make much noise around it. But whenever, if it came up, if we meet like complete strangers at a party or something, and when people hear what I do, the reaction is more or less like, like around curiosity and excitement, and less around, well, I don't know what they say behind my back, but at least on the face, at least it's like, man, that's amazing, that's great.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense actually for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think when you are selective and discerning about the people that you let in your life, right? And then yeah, you're not going to have people that are like negative and naysayers and jealous and all the things. So I think that's one. So for those of you listening, right, take this into consideration because I think Vishwas, because of who you surrounded yourself, right, you put yourself in that situation to be supported.
On that note, you don't need a lot of people. You just need, you just need like whoever your partner or your closest person is to be on the same page and supportive and help and to their best ability. And then you just need like a handful of close, good friends that you can confide in, that you can talk to, that will tell you as it is, but also keep you, uplifted when need be. You don't need 15, 20, 30. You don't need, most of that out of for me, like, a lot of that is noise. Even the good part of that is noise, because then you start chasing that noise. You just need like a few friends that you can count on, and then you can be that friend for them and your partner. And if you have kids, then you just, that adds another level of, I gotta, my kids don't care if I'm a movie star or not. They just want me to be a stable, happy person who can be around for them. So that adds another level. Just generally don't chase people. Chase ideas. The right people, the right number of people will show up, and they will stay there. And that's all you need, like a very close sort of support system or group of friends. You don't need a whole lot of, I don't know, I'm just going on a rant here, but
No, I agree. I mean, like, are you sure you're not a coach on the side? Because, like, no, like, I'm really glad you say that, right? Like, and I just like on these podcasts, I just like honor, like, yeah, wherever your rant goes, like, just trust it and honor it because, like, people need to hear this. And personally, like, I literally have a mantra this year, which is like, keep it right, keep it tight. Because right in the past, it was about quantity and it wasn't quality as much. And now I'm just like, woo, you got to be really freaking awesome to be in my inner circle because like I've learned that lesson, right? But I think a lot of us have to learn. But I agree. And I think when we up level and when we do chase our dreams and when we do end up seeing what needs to be pruned, what relationships need to be pruned from our life, because if if they're not for us, then they don't belong there.
yeah, either pruned or like not even encouraged. That's the
Yeah,
that.
or not encouraged. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you too about the chase, like same thing. Like I chased a lot of relationships for a long time and it's like, and I'm done with that stage. You drop in some serious wisdom nuggets today on just living life fully and, in a way that brings you the joy. Okay. So circling back, right? So you weren't facing a whole lot of headwinds necessarily because you had solid people around you.
Yes, but I will tell you though, like when so I'm making it sound that it was all like easy and hunky dory, but I had, in terms of like trying to get adjusted to, because when reality hit, that come end of my working period, and then the new year starts, and I don't have a job because I didn't pursue one, right? Now my kids are gone to preschool and school, wife's at work. What do I do? It's not like I'm going on set every day, right? So, and I had not even thought about that. And that's the first time when I missed sort of just the routine, or sort of the structure that you have when you have a proper 9 to 5 job. You get to meet people, you have conversations, some of them interesting, some of them are not. You work on projects, some of them you like, some of them you don't, but there's enough sort of subconsciously there to sort of keep you going through the day. And then for me, that was suddenly gone. And I'm like, I'm like, shoot, now what? And the other side was when you work in an office, your targets are decided for you. This is what your goals are. These are the efforts you need to put in. And more often than not, 2 + 2 will equal 4. Or, if you do A and B, you will get C. More often than not, that happens. And this one, there's like nothing. There is literally nothing. So I had to sort of redefine like what I call success, because in every line of work, and especially in this line of work, in acting and filmmaking or arts or whatever, there's a very objective definition of success, which is like if you've been on X number of shows, if people know your name, if you've made money along the way, if you won an award or two, then you are successful. Like no one can dispute that you have seen objective success, and that doesn't come to everyone. And if that is what you think about day in and day out, you will drive yourself nuts, because it's not going to suddenly happen. So I had to sort of redefine what success would mean for me, and I remember like I kind of took it in like sort of 3 month sort of increments, that if over 3 months, if I am attending a few auditions, or if I've written something new, or if I met some new people who are in this line of work and expanded my network, or if a project that I did has gotten into a film festival, which means I'll get to meet some more people, then that to me is success. And being not successful, or being sort of what that would look like would be if I'm just sitting at home and I realize that I have made zero progress on any front, that I have not moved even an inch forward, then that is when I would start calling myself, hey, I wouldn't call it unsuccessful, that, hey, this is not what we want to do. So I had to redefine that in terms, I had to sort of set my own goals that, hey, it is fine. It's fine if you have not, booked anything in 3 months, but you wrote a new piece that you can shoot. You auditioned an X number of times, which is great. Or you've met these new people, which is great. And that to me is success. So I had to redefine that, and I had to readjust that. So where I was going back was like, when I was when I was struggling with that, like when I was trying to figure that out in that initial phase, if I went somewhere, let's say at a party, or somewhere else where you meet new people, and what do you do, I found myself telling them what I do, that I'm an actor, but you know what, I used to have a real job, like I was a blah blah blah, like I was always telling like a backstory to kind of like give some validation to myself. And and I found that weird. I'm like, why am I doing that? And even Josie was like, you don't need to do that. Like, why do you, like, because what would happen is, like, inadvertently, and I think people mean it from like the best possible place, they ask you, oh really, are you in something that we would know of, and then more often than not the answer is probably, if you have to ask me, that means no. If you knew who I was, then you would not be asking me that question. So like, to sort of, and then if like, the answer to that is going to be no, then does that mean that what you're doing is not worth anything? Like, is that how they're going to look at it, that, well, if we haven't seen anything, then clearly you're not an actor? Because it's this is that line of work that you can call yourself an actor and all day long, but unless other people start calling you, oh, he's an actor, it's not the objective success is still far from you. So I found myself doing that. Oh, I used to be da, 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 da. And I was like, wait, why am I doing that? So that took a little bit of getting used to, and just let it flow. What do you do? I'm an actor. Oh great, what do you act in? I do theater, I do independent films, short films, and I've just started pursuing it, full time. So the conversations became a little bit more like organic, as opposed to, wait, don't just like, I got more, like, yes, I'm an actor, but before that I was blah blah blah. So yeah.
I love that you share this part of your journey because I think, well, first of all, I, I think it's important for everybody to hear that it can be difficult to know how to talk about ourselves when we're in transition, or when we no longer have the identity that we've hung on to for so long. Oh, I'm a marketer, right? Or, oh, I work in CPG, or right? Or, oh, I can attach myself to the Pepsi and the Post of the world. And so I just love that you share that, because it's universal. And actually just had a conversation today about, the gender difference. And I'm like, there's not a gender difference with this stuff. I think it's just what we see and
Yeah.
what's talked about. But these things are universal. Like, am I worthy? Am I enough? Like, am I going to be viewed in the way that I want to be viewed? All that stuff. And I love that you just decided, like, I got to rewrite this story. Like, this story isn't really working for me. And like I said before, we have a lot of parallels, because that happened to me too. It's like when I landed or launched my own company, right? It was just like I was constantly go, oh, well, I had a career and blah, 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 and oh, I worked for here and that. And now, gosh, like I never start with that. It's like, yeah, I'm a coach, I'm a keynote speaker. And then, of course, I've got different credibilities that I bring when people are like, are you legit? Because actually, like you said, right, anybody can call themselves a coach too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's get real. But I would love to just share a couple of your favorite wins, projects, because like I'd love for people to know about what you have out there, so they can, I'm sure they're going to want to know how they can, see something that you've done. And by the way, for those of you, listening, right, you can't see, like, Vishwas is definitely superstar, definitely got the look, like the whole 9 yards. You know what I mean? Like all the things. So it's not a surprise that this was your dream from long ago because you definitely fit the bill. But yeah, what are some of your favorite things that you brought? Because you said it's been like 8 or 9 years. So like, what are you most proud? Speaking of redefining success, you know?
I'm gonna there's actually a lot of stuff that I'm very proud of. The God of Carnage theater play called Boy, and then I wrote and produced two short films. One was called The Visit, one called Jasmine, and they did really well in film festivals and all that kind of stuff. And then, there's a group of filmmakers that I work very frequently, and they do good stuff. It's short, independent stuff, but I love that also because they give me very interesting parts. But in terms of, just the scale or the magnitude of like the objective that no one can say, oh yes, this is guy. Everyone can say, yeah, this is a big thing.
All of those are big things, by the way. Let me just like pause. Like you've written some, like The Visit, like Jasmine, like they're beautiful pieces. And God of Carnage, like like I saw those. So like, let's not diminish all of that which you just said
Yes,
was
yes, yes, yes,
amazing. Okay.
yes.
But yes, but I know you did some blockbuster things. So let's talk about that.
In terms of scale, I did over the last couple of years. So I last year or 2 years ago, it was released last year. I had a small part in a movie called Landscape with Invisible Hand. It was produced by MGM and Brad Pitt's company, made by this really brilliant filmmaker named Corey Finley. Had a theatrical release. It kind of went under the radar because of the strike and everything. You couldn't talk about a market or anything. But it was like amazing seeing myself it got theatrical release. My wife and I went and watched it. It was amazing to see my face on that massive screen for a good 2.5, 3 minutes. It was a very important, good scene. I had a great time working on that. It's called Landscape with Invisible Hand. And then very recently, I was on the season finale episode of the CBS show called The Equalizer with Queen Latifah in it and a bunch of other really brilliant actors. And that's yeah, that was the other big one. That's more recent. It just aired on May 19th.
That was awesome too. Like all the listeners, I know they're already Googling and they're pulling all that stuff up. And you were brilliant in all those things that you mentioned. Watch them all. And you're a very humble guy. So, like, how do you celebrate these? Or do you believe in like celebrating all of these wins along the way? Has that been a part of your process of just like acknowledging, like, well, I did these things happen? Because it's easy to sit here at this moment, right? With just seeing your face next to Queen Latifah. And, I was waiting for the selfie that never came. But anyway, um, but yeah, do you celebrate? Like, is that uncomfortable for you or have you embraced that?
No, it is. It's comfortable. I celebrate it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I love seeing myself on the screen. I celebrate in terms of, yes, with friends and family, and I give myself a little pat on the back. And for me, it's like everything like these that happens is validation that I'm on the right path. Because think about it, like complete strangers. I mean, this whole process is like so. If you think about it, so strange. Like someone writes a story, someone decides to make it, someone decides to put the money in it, and then these complete strangers look for other complete strangers who can fit in that world and do justice to their story. And then a whole lot of people apply to be in those things. And a group of complete strangers looked at you and said, yeah, that's the guy we want. So I have my respect for anyone, any actor, any artist, or anyone out there who is making things work on their own, no matter how small or how big the part is, has gone through the roof since I started doing this. Because a lot of times for people who are not in it, it's easy to say, oh, she had a 30-second part. Oh, so and so had a blink and miss it thing. But you know how hard those are to get it? Even that person had to convince a complete group of strangers, hey, put your trust in me, I will do justice to your story, no matter how fleeting it might be. So yes, I celebrate in terms of, yeah, hey man, so I got in the room, celebrated in terms of that, able to go through this process. And then the whole process of being on set is a celebration in itself. Because for me, the work is the auditioning, the rejection, the not hearing back from people, or just constantly reminding yourself that, hey, you didn't get rejected because of you. You got rejected just because you didn't fit the bill, or it's just a matter of time, So that is the work. And it can be hard, it can be tough, it is grinding. So to actually be on set, that is the vacation part of it. You get to do what you love. So that in itself is a celebration. And then when when it comes out, obviously with friends and with family and a little quiet moment with myself, like, hey, you did well, man. So yes, obviously do that, because I think that's very important to sort of keep going and to sort of reinforce the fact that you made the right choice and you're on the right path.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that you shared that. I'm always talking about celebration. I'm always talking about how important it is, the small wins, the big wins, especially because we haven't talked so much about all the lows, right? And all the disappointments and the rejection and what it takes to kind of keep going despite all of that. And what I think is fascinating, even more than all the wins, even though in and of itself, obviously huge wins, is that you're doing it in such a non-traditional way, right? Like it's not like you're living LA and you're knocking down the doors and you're in all those circles. Like you are doing it completely differently. And I think that's also what I want for you listening, right? Like it doesn't have to be the pathway that has been laid out a million times before you, right? Like that you get to create the way that works for you because you know you're following your purpose and your passion and or the whisper of the moment that says go do this thing and you're just a testament to like it doesn't have to look the way that you've been told it has to look. It can look however is authentic to you and your path and what works for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So see, people, this is why I had to interview Vishwas, like one of my very first interviews on the Unlock Lab. So I guess my question is, gosh, I could go on and on. There's so many things I want to dive into, but maybe they'll have to be part two and part three here. But so what advice do you have for folks who they're perking up in their chair and they're just like excited to hear your story. And now they're starting to wonder, do I get to dream big too? Like, what advice do you have for people who might be like, maybe something is still possible, even though I'm 30, 40, 50, 70, like what would you say to them?
So there are two sides of, hey, all this time has passed. One is that, yes, all this time has passed and you haven't been able to do what you want to do. But the other side is all this time has passed. You haven't been able to do what you wanted to do, but you're still thinking about it, right? So that means that thing is still there. And if that thing is so important, then don't put an expiration date on it. Don't be like, I'm going to give it 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or I cannot do it anymore. You may not be able to do what your version of what you thought it might be or what you think it might get to be, but there's always something you can do if you have the right support system, if you have the right approach towards it. That's a huge caveat, right? But I think anything is better than despair. Anything is better than giving up. And it's not easy. If it's easy, everyone would be doing it, right? But yeah, just don't like not do it just because you haven't done it so far. And the other big thing I would say is like if you decide to take the step, if you decide to deal with the ups and downs that come with it, just be very kind to yourself. Love yourself, like yourself, not as, hey, look at me, I'm the bee's knees, but whatever you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, it has to start with like just liking yourself, liking with who you are. Because even when you are super successful, you still have to live with yourself. Like you're living with yourself, right? So be kind to yourself, love yourself, like yourself, and just don't not do things that you always wanted to do just because you have not been able to do them so far.
That makes absolute sense. It's like, it's never over until it's over.
And it's less of an advice. Like I don't I don't like the word advice because it's more of like I'm sharing stuff that I've gone through with myself. Like it's more of a suggestion born out of experience. Rather than like rather than like an advice coming from a wise man or something like that.
You are a wise man. But I hear what you're saying. I hear that like that word isn't necessarily comfortable for you. But yeah, you're sharing, hey, this is your life experience. This is your perspective on the world. Um, and I think that's beautiful and totally, totally agree with, we can't count ourselves out until we're dead. You know what I mean? Like anything is possible. And that's why, again, like I really want to have you on because I think you are a reminder that like anything is possible. And even though transitions are hard and at times the journey may be like WTF, it's not like you had that package and then you had these immediate wins. Like it took you some time,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
to like to write the things, to find the parts, to find your way. And so I love your sage wisdom that you just shared. And I always joke with you, right? Because I'm always like, so I'm going to get the ticket to the Oscars, right? Because that's one of my dreams is just, can I just go to the Oscars? But I am actually curious, like, what is next for you? Or like, what dream are you dreaming now about what you want to manifest and bring to life?
In terms of the sheer sort of what the industry throws at you, there's ups and downs. Right now, we're going through a quiet period because, we're coming out of the strikes and everything. Things haven't picked up so much. So yeah, right. Like the hope is that the little slew of auditions that had started in the beginning of the year will start anytime again soon, hopefully, in terms of, the opportunities that the industry throws at you. And in terms of my own, I'm kind of hoping that I get some sort of an inspiration or idea soon that I can write something new and produce it. But I don't know, I don't know how long that may or may not take. But yeah, that's it. It continues, it goes on. Sometimes you have 5, 6, 7 auditions a week, and sometimes you don't have anything for weeks, but that's just how it is. And you kind of have to be okay with that. And that's where I am right now. And to go back to that, right now I'm celebrating my little success with the network appearance I had. So I'm still
Yes,
basking in that
the
glory.
Equalizer. Yes, I'm still celebrating with you.
So yeah, that's where things are.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense, And yeah, what I'm hearing is just like also honoring where things are with the industry right now. But yeah, and like you mentioned, it's up and down, right? Like when you walk away from a corporate quote unquote paycheck, right? You walk into a little bit more uncertainty, a little bit of like life isn't happening on your timeline, opportunities, inspiration is we just have to be open and allowing, right? Versus like we're not in control of any of that. So thank you so much for walking us through just one facet of your life. There's so much more there, of course, but thank you for sharing your career journey and your bravery and your courage and your just transparency in what you dealt with too, because that's what I think is super valuable for everybody here is that the realness of all of that. And so where can people find you? I know you're not big on branding and content creation and social, but like if people are like really inspired or really want to learn more about your projects and what you're doing, what is the best way they can do that?
So I have a website, www.vishwas.film. That's V as in Victor, I, S as in Sam, H, W, A, S as in Sam, .film, vishwas.film. And that has, I try to post like latest stuff and stuff on there, but it's got some examples of things that I've done, obviously my resume. And it also has links to my social media profile, like Instagram and stuff. But yeah, that would be a good one-stop shop to keep an eye on me if someone was interested. Yeah.
Excellent. Also, Vishwas's birthday is also this month. I didn't make the announcement while he was on the call, but if you are so inclined and you reach out to him through his social channels, by all means, don't forget to wish him a very happy birthday.